For today's video, I want to break down time lapses, hyperlapses, or I get this a lot, why don't you just fast forward that? I don't consider myself a videographer by any stretch of the imagination. This is still all very new for me, but ever since I started making YouTube videos, I have slowly fallen in love with editing them and making them my own. I like making time lapses like the one you're looking at right now because 1, they're visually appealing, to me at least, and 2, they make for a great segue between scenes. Now, there are 3 ways of achieving this effect, or at least 3 similar ways. 1 is with a time lapse, 2 is with a hyperlapse, and 3 is just fast forwarding the video. But they can all be used differently, and I'd like to compare visually and contrast how technically. I went to Wrigley early this morning to shoot some video, early enough that people weren't crowding the streets and still sleeping hungover from the night before. But this first scene is just a video of me walking towards Wrigley with the video in fast forward. I can speed it up just enough so you're not watching me take a 13-minute walk around the park. A problem with just recording straight up and fast forward though means that I end up having 1.5 gigs of video sitting on my phone. And maybe if we all had 128 gigs of space it wouldn't be a big deal, but let's compare this to a hyperlapse on my S7, same walk.
You ready?
The video I took on my iPhone 6s Plus was 13 minutes and took up 1.5 gigs of space. This hyperlapse was 32 megabytes, about 40 times smaller in size than the 13-minute video, and it looks a lot more fluid than just fast forwarding. Not a bad way to showcase Wrigley in a quicker amount of time, and with less space. And here's a side-by-side just in case you wanted to get an example of how they look next to each other. Now let's take a look at a time-lapse versus a hyperlapse. A time-lapse and a hyperlapse seem very similar to me. In fact, I was really confused about its differences until I started messing around with it more. Here's a time-lapse of my Nexus 6P, pretty much a standard time-lapse. Now here's a hyperlapse of my S7. Again, they look pretty similar in terms of what it's doing. Here's a time-lapse of my 6P walking around the other side of Wrigley, and here's the same walk using the hyperlapse mode on my S7. A lot smoother, a lot more pleasing to the eye. Conclusion? Well, number 1, the hyperlapse mode on the S7 is excellent. Use time lapses for still shot videos. Use hyperlapses for videos that include physical motion with your phone. You can definitely use them for still shots as well. And use fast forwarding if you want more realistic motion in your video. Want to slow it down for parts where you need audio or you just have the space.